This is Tim with Death by Metal STL, and I'm talking to
Scott Klutz
and George Call. Both of us are formerly of Omen. Scott was a bass player, I was a singer. I'm also currently with Aska and with Coleman Hoof out of the UK, out of England. We're a British heavy metal band. Maybe you're familiar with the band, maybe not. Also, I'm with the band out of the Kansas City area. You may have heard called Banshee.
Yes.
You heard of Banshee?
Yes.
Yeah. I was the guy that sang on the 2012 comeback album, so to speak, Mind Slave.
Okay.
And, I replaced Tommy Lee Flood, and I'm on that record. And I mean, the band's kind of on hiatus right now, but I was the guy that sang on that record, and Scott's the guy that booked the tour.
There you go. Let's start off with the band Omen. I remember back in the day grabbing that album. What was your experience like in that band? I mean, what tours did you guys go to? What bands did you meet? Who did you play with?
You remember?
Okay, man, it was a great experience. You know, myself, George, that's just thinking, I was a fan of the band in high school.
Right.
You know, so I owned the Battle Cry record. In fact, I owned all the records up to that point that had been released before I ever got the call to join them. I mean, I was familiar with all the material. I was a fan, and whenever I would see Kenny Powell around town, I always tell him, hey, dude, you know, if you ever need a singer, man, I know all your shit. I'm a fan.
Right.
I love the band. And I'd be more than happy to come in there and do this thing with you. But so it was really cool to actually join the band. Scott was already in it when I joined.
Yeah, Kenny was a neighbor of mine. He lives 3 houses down from me, and we barely even knew each other. And then we finally started to talk. You know, just kind of met each other and started hanging out a little bit. And then he found out I was a bass player in bands prior. And then one day he just said, "Hey, man, I'm getting rid of everyone in my band. You want to play bass for me?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Sure." And he goes, "Well, we're getting ready for this big tour coming up. We're going to go play Germany, Belgium, Italy, and Greece." And I said, "Oh, sounds great to me. I'm in."
Now, what year was
I
this?
started learning all. That was in
2007?
Yeah.
9?
Well, yeah, 7. I officially joined the band in 2006. At the end of 2006.
Okay.
Or was it 2007?
I think it was 07, maybe 2006, if I'm not mistaken.
It was at the end. Yeah, it was at the end of 07. Because there was a friend of ours, a guy with the name of Matt, who was opening a club in Dallas called the Vampire Lounge, and Kenny asked him to be the new lead singer, and Matt said yes at first, but then he said, "Nah, this club's about to open in a couple of weeks. There's no way I can be taken off for Europe
Right.
with my club about to open." So he had to bow out. And that's when Kenny called George. But so officially I joined at the end because that club, Owen was going to play the New Year's Eve party on, January 31st, 07. So, or December 31st, I mean. So, then that fell through because the club didn't get open in time. So, but I was still officially the bass player of Omen at that point. And then, Kenny told me about the tour that was booked and wanted me to go. And then he got George, and then me and George became friends after that.
Now, what bands did you tour with anybody, or did you guys go separately, or were you kind of like a headlining band? What was the deal?
Well, we actually did. The first tour out, which I had maybe 2 weeks or less to prepare for, which was a multi-country tour to Europe. It was 4 or 5 countries. We had Sentinel Beast on the road with us. And we basically, they're from California. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, I've heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, they're one of the original Metal Blade bands, back in the day. with Debbie Kahn on the vocals. But we had them. They met us in Germany. They're from California. We're Texas-based, and we met, at the airport there in Frankfurt, and basically we're together through the rest of the tour all the way to Greece, where I guess Kenny abandoned them after some.
Right.
He kind of dumped them after some altercation or the other. One of the guys in Sentinel Beach tried to steal a jacket.
In Belgium. No,
Italy.
Yeah,
in Italy from a fan, and they got nasty, and then they ended up, I don't know, there was some misinformation, but at the hotel where, they ended up spending all of the gig money on food and alcohol at the hotel. So, it got really ugly there, and we kind of, Kenny decided we were going to part ways with Sentinel Beast.
They were already booked all the shows we were doing, so we were still seeing them. But
yeah,
right.
But we had, other than that, we really had, there was no issue with Sentinel Beast. We had a great time together. I think Kenny and Debbie even got together, in Greece.
Yeah.
It's just pretty wild.
Now, as far as being like 2006, 2007, the thrash movement then was kind of at a low. I mean, I know a lot of bands like Testament and stuff like that was, and Suicidal was trying to chug along, but it was kind of like, it wasn't at this mainstay of like the 80s where it was like bloomed and humongous. What was that like? Was there any different response from then till you think?
Well, the way I see it, Omen had already established themselves in
right.
the metal community across the world, especially in Europe. They were huge in Europe, or still are.
Right.
And,
yeah.
We played with some pretty big packed houses. Keep True in Germany. We played a festival in Italy. We played some great club in Belgium. We played Up the Hammers in Athens, Greece, and we were headlining most of those.
Yeah, my perspective on it, I know exactly what you're talking about, where metal kind of took a hit and disappeared and went underground.
Yeah.
So that never was so much the case in Europe. In the U.S., absolutely. Metal is a bad word. But and I know that firsthand because I started my band Aska in 91, right in the middle of, the grunge takeover, the Seattle scene takeover of the airwaves. So it was an uphill slog the whole way trying to do traditional metal. But that didn't really affect Omen in Europe, where we'd show up and the houses were packed. It didn't matter if it was an arena we were playing or if it was a small venue. I mean, the fans were there in numbers, and we kind of actually, when I came on board, it just seemed to kind of turn Omen's fortunes around a bit.
Right.
From where things had been prior, because they had done that, Reopening the Gates album with Kenny Starr on the vocals. It was very poorly received. People didn't like that record.
Right.
Because it was Omen trying to ride the cyclical wave of what was happening in the U.S.
Right.
That's not what the fans in Europe wanted to hear. They never, that was sacrilegious to them.
Right.
And to me, as a fan myself, I got it. I totally understood. Our era of the deal was I wanted to kind of be true to what J.D. Kimball had done with the band. As a fan of the original group, I wanted to make sure that the group treaded in that direction, as opposed to the direction they'd done with, had been going in with Reopening the Gates,
Right. What was growing up, both of you, what was the major influences in your lives to become musicians? What pushed you to do that? Was it an instrument? Was it a musician? What did you look up to and how did you get into it?
Well, for me, I was always into music. Even in grade schools and stuff, I was a singer in choirs and stuff like that. And then I started playing an instrument in the school band. I played French horn for 7 years. and music was just a part of my life. And then I got into a band in high school as a singer, frontman, and it kind of, once you get into it, it's in your blood for the rest of your life. You can't shake it. You can't walk away from it. And then I started playing guitar, and then I switched to bass. And I played bass with a bunch of bands around Texas. And then again, I told you the story about how I met my neighbor Kenny Powell and joined Omen. But then I took it further. Or once I got out of that, I kind of already started throughout my years as a musician of booking bands. So now I've got my own company where I book tours, North American tours for metal bands and rock bands, such as Banshee. I've booked Mobile Death Camp many a time. Vicious Rumors. I've booked. There's been several. I've booked a bunch. I've joined the touring company called Tone Deaf Touring for a couple of years, and booked a bunch of big names for them or with them, and then I went back to my company, Metal Thunder Entertainment, and now I'm going to be booking. I'm working on the new tour of Cloven Hoof and Vicious Rumors coming up this coming September. So that's going to be you'll be seeing that getting plastered everywhere real soon.
Right. And we'll talk when we get off the interview about more about that, because I want to hook up with some stuff with the magazine. But but like I said, I mean, that's something I think. Go on.
I'm sorry. I was just going to give you my answer on that same question.
Oh, there you go.
Scott just did. Yeah, and this is George, by the way. What did it for me, I mean, it was real simple and it was really clear. I know exactly what turned me onto this path, and it was the day that I discovered the rock band Kiss. I saw the makeup, I heard the music, and I was instantly enamored. I mean, my life changed that day. I wanted to learn. I couldn't play a lick, but I wanted to learn to play an instrument, and I wanted to do what they did. So my entire and total corruption is because of Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Ace Frehley, and Peter Criss. God bless them.
Wow. I think Destroyer was the first album I've ever kind of snuck into my uncle's room, and I that's a classic story, but I he had all these, had Kiss and Deep Purple and Thin Lizzy and Rush, and I used to go in there and play them, and I got caught one day. He beat the crap out of me. He was like, "You scratched my damn records." He goes, "I'll kill you." But it's to me, metal, and that's a question I want to ask you too, and I ask everybody this, but when I was growing up, and I'm sure it was the same for you, but when, Metallica and Slayer, Possessed, Suicidal, all these bands, they've lasted 30 plus years. I don't know how far Metallica is going to go until one of them passes away or some stupid something happens, unfortunately. But do you think the metal bands coming out today is going to have that longevity push? Do you think the record label is going to be able to do that, or let them do that? Do you think the bands themselves are going to be able to get caught on and carry that much weight? Because I think the second wave with Hatebreed and Lamb of God and bands like this, they have that longevity. They pushed. But to me, these bands coming out today, there's just so many of them, and I think the system is so flooded with bands nowadays. And I think the good bands that come out really are just, they're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that?
I think that you're probably right. There's a lot of, there's so many bands that it gets to be, it's a minefield. You got to, wade through them, and there's no time. Clearly nobody's got that kind of time. But, I think that's always been the case. And as will always be, the cream rises to the top. I mean, there's going to be, 100,000 bands more, and out of those, you might hear about this one, that one, or the other, and, the cream will rise to the top. Some will be caught in the middle, and others will just fade away because it wasn't the real deal. But there are so many great bands out there if one just puts in a little effort to seek. You're never going to get that, the old record company type push thing that there was, once upon a time.
Right.
But I think people love music. It's not something, it's like, how people, like some people are into motocross, right? They like bicycle racing, motorcycle racing. Other people are into comic book collecting. Everybody's got their thing. And the people that are into music, that's their thing. And if they can make a living at it, they're happy. They're wow.
Right.
Not too many people can do it, but not too many people can make a living at stamp collecting, but it doesn't stop them. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like people still get after because they find pleasure in it. And I think as long as it's pleasurable and people, as long as you have fans and people enjoy it, and you can make some scratch on the side, and or full on if you do it right. People will do it, forever. I've been playing in the rock and roll band since high school. Decades I've been doing this thing, and here I still am, and I've done it with this band, I've done it with the other. But as long as I find it enjoyable, I'm going to do it, until I drop.
Right.
It's fun to me. It's a great thing. I love the music. I don't like what corporate radio pushes down our throats. In fact, it's not just that I don't like it; it's that I despise a lot of that kind of music.
Yeah.
The stuff that the Beyoncés and the Jay-Z and the stuff that they tell us is cool to like. Oh man, this sucks. It's not cool in the least. I'm a metal guy. Play something for me. When one of their, let's say, one of their icons passed away, they say Prince. Oh my God, Prince died. Oh my God. Ronnie James Dio died. I didn't hear a beat. Aside from the metal people, nobody gave a damn. And to me, that's, no thanks. I'll stick with Dio, and you guys can listen to whatever the hell, but, there's a far greater loss of talent and creativity when we lost a guy like Ronnie James Dio than when we lost, some Michael Jackson that's got the producer doing all the stuff for him, and then he just comes in there and goes,
I think what is it? Is it harder on the booking side? When you book bands, is it harder to do nowadays because of so many bands out there?
Not if the band has got a name. If there's somebody that the buyer thinks that he can sell tickets for, then it's not hard at all.
Right.
There's always a lot of unknown bands that want to tour. They want to feel the lifestyle of being a rock star, and that means getting out and touring and playing in a different city every night.
Right.
And those are the people who aren't going to make any money. They're going to lose their ass on the road. But some of them don't care. Some of them have got a rich parents or something, or someone that just got a lot of money that they can help support the band while they go out on the tour. But as long as it's a band that's got some kind of sellability, then it's not difficult at all.
Right. And speaking of people passing away, I'm a huge Slayer fan, and when Jeff Hanneman passed away, nobody gave a shit. Nobody said anything.
Nobody gave a shit.
The metal community, for the most part, did. But even after he passed away, the award ceremony, they had some stupid award ceremony. And even guys like James Hetfield and stuff like that, they were kind of just like, that's kind of sad to hear, man. And I'm like, do you understand that this guy, like James, Ronnie James Dio they created a movement. They created this music. They started this. They did this, and I think that.
Absolutely.
I think the metal community, my personal opinion on the metal community is that it's very strong, but it's strong when they want to be strong. It's a very weird group of people, and I think that, I don't know. It's not when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, my jean jacket had, groups from Iron Maiden to Motley Crue on it, patches wise, and no one gave a shit. I was a metalhead. That's what I was. Nowadays, if you wear something like that, everyone's like, oh God, you got Motley Crue with Slayer. What the hell? It's like seriously, like who cares? It's like, that's the shit I like. But
you know what? Interestingly enough, in Europe, that is perfectly acceptable.
Yes.
And you'll often see the jean jacket, the patch jackets, and the vests and stuff. They will have every genre of metal that they enjoy, on those jackets, from Crew to Kiss to Maiden to Priest to Agatha Demon, Slayer, Cannibal Corpse. You name it. I mean, it'll be a patchwork, of different bands on those jackets, and as it should be, I think. I mean, I'm that way. I mean, I love Slayer, dude. I mean, I can tell I can name all the guys in Slayer: Dave Lombardo, Jeff Adaman, Gary King, fucking Tom Araya, and then all the flexibles too. I mean, from the Paul Bailoff, I don't know Bailoff, that's Exodus, but to the drummer, to everybody. I mean, I'm a huge Slayer fan. And it's a shame. I mean, it's a disgrace that nobody gave a fuck when Jeff Adaman passed outside of the metal community. These guys sold records. These guys are still touring. These guys are considered, one of the top four in the genre, in the whole thrash metal genre. And who gave a shit outside, of the metal community? The mass media didn't give a damn.
No.
They could care less. So, what I have to say to the mass media? Double fingers sticking right out, pointing at them. I don't give. They can kiss my ass. Mass media can fuck off. I love heavy metal, and that's what's important to me. And that's why, I mean, it's in my blood. It's just like you're doing your magazine and the things you do, not because you're going to get rich or whatever, but because you love what you're doing. You love the music. You love the style. I mean, I'm just guessing, but.
That's the whole thing. It's I created the magazine because I wanted to. It's because I grew up listening to these bands. I knew, when we started, I just had a Facebook page. That's all I had, and I just reached out to everybody I knew, from Bobby Goofson to whoever, and was like, can I get an interview with you? And they did these guys wrote down email interviews, every one of them. From Matt Thompson, the drummer for King Diamond, to Bobby with Overkill, they just wrote, they wrote me interviews. No, they would never do that in a million years. If it wasn't anybody else, they would just be like, "Oh, fuck off," because they're not going to sit down and write a damn interview, And I didn't know, and that's where I started. But I'm not getting rich off of nothing. I'm not. No, that's not fucking happening. But the metal community has to have people like me. And you have to have booking agents, and you have to have things, or you're not going to listen to any music, because the radio is going to destroy it. Live Nation is going to rip it out underneath you, and you're not going to hear these obscure little bands. And that's why I do it, because somebody somewhere, there's a kid sitting in, I don't care if it's Ohio to Germany, sitting in the basement of his parents' house or whatever, and they're listening to that album that you're helping push. So you have to continue to do it. If you don't do it, then it sucks. But what right now are you guys doing? What are you doing for the music community, or what band are you? What are you doing right now?
Okay, me, I'm like right now. I'm in Africa and in Copenhagen. Copenhagen is currently touring. I've been in Europe maybe 3-4 times on 4 different tours last year. I'm headed back there next month to headline the Sword Brothers Festival in Germany. We'll be back out there in July to play the Bang Your Head Fest, which is 15, 20, 30,000 people go to that thing every year. And just released the new Golden Hoof record April last year. And then 2 nights ago, Saturday night, I played in Arlington, Texas, home of Pantera, with my band Aska. We headlined the show there at Diamond Juice. And so I mean, I'm in it, dude. I'm in the business. I'm out there playing, recording, releasing albums. I sang 3 songs on the new Emerald CD that also came out April last year. I did a guest appearance on 2 songs on the new Thor album that just came out a few months back.
Right.
Remember Thor?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So yeah, man. I'm out there. I'm busy. You can hear my voice on lots of things. I sang on the Axe Viper record. I did guest vocals there. I did guest vocals on Germany's War Cry on one of their records. In fact, doing an Omen song. They did a cover of Death Rider, and they had me split the verses, you know, with the singer.
Really?
You know, and yeah, it was really cool, man. So I mean, I'm out there working it, pushing it every night, and Scott, you know, his part, what he's doing is, you know, he's booking the bands, making sure that there's places for these bands to play and getting them on tour, and you know, so yeah, man, we keep our hands in the pie, in the cake, so to speak, and do it to it, man. You know, which is all we can do. And if not for, you know, guys like you doing what you do, giving us just another venue of exposure for, you know, basically, yeah, a way to get our voice out there to the people. You're our Twitter. You're another version of that press. It doesn't matter how big or small. You know, it's just another avenue. And our hats off to guys like you, Tim, and much respect for what you do, man, because you know, you allow us a platform in which we can reach the fans out there and reach people that might not know of the bands or might never have heard of the bands or give a shit. I mean, it's just another avenue for where they can learn about the bands or discover, you know, the bands. So, man, hats off to you, brother. I mean, appreciate what you do.
Well, I'm glad that Scott got a hold of me today, and I didn't know. You have no idea. Well, I'm sure you do, but I get so many messages during the day or during the night. My phone, I have to literally turn my phone down completely because I've got people from Europe and stuff. Hey, check out my new record, and will you do a review, or will you do this, or will you do that? And I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, I don't even know who you are. Like, what's going on? So it's getting bigger, but you know, it's the music scene. I think the metal scene is going to get bigger. I think underground's going to get bigger. I think these bands are going to start shining more throughout the year, and I think 2018 is going to be a good year. I think it really is. And as far as Scott, what else other than booking are you into? What do you do?
That's about it. Really, you know, I have some other things I do to bring in some cash to pay the bills, but
right.
As far as music goes, that's really all I'm at or into right now.
Well, it seems like, do you like doing it? Is it a pretty good gig, or?
I enjoy it. Like I said before, or I alluded to, every band I've ever been in, I've done the booking for that band, whether it be a cover band or an original band.
Right.
And so when I left Omen, it's just kind of like I'm going, well, why not continue? Because I was doing the booking for Omen and stuff. And so I just took it a step further and started my own company and then just, you know, kept going with that. And I ran with it and I enjoy it.
Right.
And I feel like there's a service that's being provided for metal musicians out there.
I think it does. What was your first metal concert? Both of you. What was your first metal concert ever, and what was your first metal album you ever bought?
I'll start, and then Scott researches his database. Mine was the first metal album I ever bought. It was actually my brother bought it, but I almost considered mine as well because we both played the shit out of it. We bought it in a garage sale, and it was actually my mom that told us about it. She said, I got this, my friend, you know, her friend was moving, and her son had a record he was selling. It was Kiss Alive, the double live album, the first one.
Yeah.
And they were selling for like $4. I don't know, it was cheap. But we bought it and played it, and like I told you earlier, man, that was it. I was sucked in, dude. I was corrupted through and through. You know, and from there, you know, I mean, I went expanding into deeper territory, you know, Celtic Frost, and, you know, Slayer, and Exodus, and Exciter, and, you know, just went deep, but still always maintain that initial love for Kiss.
Right.
Now, as far as, that was a two-part question. What was the other part of that?
What was your first concert you ever been to?
Yeah, my first concert was actually a country music concert. My dad was a big country music fan. It was Freddie Fender, but my first metal concert, or rock, you know, hard rock, whatever, was AC/DC with Yngwie Malmsteen opening the show. And I said, wow, it's a great way to start. I mean, it was a good show.
Right.
And but I was dyed in the wool long before I ever saw anybody live.
Right.
I mean, I think it's a gradual progression with most people. Usually, first you start, you get into the music, and you start thinking, oh wow, this is great. I want to see them in concert. I want to see. Of course, when I grew up, there were no concerts. I mean, there wasn't. Nobody came there. So I had to wait till I was, 18 and stuff, until I left home before I could actually see a concert. But it was great, man. Now, Scott?
First concert was, I think it was B.B. King with Rare Earth. It was the very first show. It's either that or Chicago. I grew up more of a rock fan than a metal fan.
Those guys are big, heavy metal, B.B. King.
Heavy metal. Blues, and then the Rare Earth was rhythm and blues. And but hell, where else did metal get a start from? From rock and blues. And that's where rock came from, was blues, and then metal came from rock. It just kept going from there. But the one thing that me and George have in common is we're both huge Beatles fans.
Right.
So that was one of the bands I grew up loving. Right, George?
Yeah. I love the Beatles. I didn't, I came to them much later in life. I remember my sister liking them, and I was going, no, man, those guys, give me a break. I was more into the Sabbath, Maiden thing, But then later, once I discovered or learned that all of the bands I liked were basically influenced, the thing that made them rock were the Beatles. I mean, almost 9 out of 10 of the bands I was influenced by will claim the Beatles as an influence,
Right.
So I went back and retroactively listened, and I fell in love with that band.
Well, a couple of the biggest names, Ozzy Osbourne was a huge Beatles fan.
Yeah, huge.
Lenny was a huge Beatles fan.
Yeah.
Because it's when I was growing up, my uncle listened to, of course, Thin Lizzy and all that stuff. But he told me, he's like, before you die, you're going to have to watch, 5 of these bands. And he's like, one of them was, definitely was Pink Floyd. He goes, you got to see Pink Floyd, dude. You have to. And he goes, you have to see Journey, and you have to see Rush, and you have to see Thin Lizzy, or you have to see Motorhead. He goes, you got to see these bands. And I saw 3 or 4 of them. I didn't see all of them. And but I think, like I said before, I think the major influence, I've always been into music, and I've always enjoyed music, and I've been playing guitar since I was 15. I was in some bands, and I toured a little bit, and it just is what it is, and I enjoy doing the magazine. It's simple, it's easy, it doesn't stress me out, it doesn't bother me, it's just, life is just stressful anyway, just standing here. But other than that, everything's good as gold. But I appreciate you guys doing an interview. I hopefully I'll see you in St. Louis soon. If you ever get a chance to come by and play in one of our venues and stuff like that, that would be fucking awesome. But I appreciate you doing the interview and learning a little bit about the band Omen. Like I said, I used to listen to it back in the day. I did. I had like 2 or 3 tapes, and I used to listen to it heavily. But Scott, if you stay on the line real quick, but I appreciate both of you guys doing the interview, and wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Right on, man. Thanks, Tim.
Hey, are there any insider type questions you want to hear about Omen? Because we've got all kinds of stories we can tell you behind the scenes.
Definitely.
Omen started life on Metal Blade. They were one of the early bands with the label,
Right.
And it was started by Brian Slagle himself, and there are some stories we could tell you that would grow hair in your head.
It probably, there's things that I've learned throughout the music community and stuff like that I've just been involved with, and when I tell people, like, off the record of what actually I went through with musicians, they're just like, their jaw drops. They're like, what? That some of them are just awesome, and some of them are the shittiest stories you've ever. You're like, wow, that couldn't have happened. I'm like, yeah, that fucking happened. That took place.
We some of those with Omen. We got a lot of those with Omen.
Oh, I bet you.
You know, I mean,
Touring over in Europe,
I think,
has to be a blast.
yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, it's because they love metal and they know who you are, and they're there in droves. And, I mean, you can't. I mean, you get. It's just another. I mean, they still love metal. It's like, just imagine the U.S. back in the metal halcyon days. You know, when everything was great and everybody loved, Judas Priest and everything. I mean, you put out a metal record and people knew about it.
Right.
That's pretty much how it is there. It never went away. That's the. I mean, sure, there's there are enclaves of rap and techno and every other kind of music you can imagine, but they never, where the U.S. kind of picks a flavor of the month, runs with it for 5, 8, 10 years, and then discards it completely for something new, for the new flick. Well, that never was the case there. There, different musical styles and genres can coexist, or they're fine to push forward, on one station. You can listen to a radio station and they'll play everything. Whereas here in the U.S., it's all. I mean, you get this is what you're getting, until they change direction, and then that's what you're getting.
Right.
And it's almost a shame, because it's a huge disservice. And then, I'm sorry, just one more thing I want to say. You were saying that you think metal is making a comeback. I don't know if you've seen it or heard the new Judas Priest single yet.
Oh yeah.
I think it's called Lightning Strikes or something. But when I saw that, dude, I said, Mike, this is just the kind of thing that fires up the community, because it's a brilliant song. They got Andy C or whoever coming down and produce that thing, and it is just probably the best music they've done in a decade or more.
Oh yeah.
It's just fantastic. It blows me away. It fires me up, and it's just the kind of thing I hope that ignites, ignites the fans to get out there and support the music and to start rediscovering some of what else is out there.
Absolutely.
And Tim, when you're asking all the places we in Omen played and stuff, we didn't even touch base on the 2 months I spent in South America playing bass. There's more stories there.
I think, you could tell them now, but it's the thing about it is I just being in a touring band, and I was like, we did our first festival, Full Terror Assault in Illinois. Last year we did this festival, and we were talking to like Crowbar and some of these bands, and the stories that they would just, after the festival was over and everyone's like bullshitting and talking, a lot of people were trying to leave and get out of there. And the stories that people like Goat Horror and all these bands were telling of like just stuff that, I can't repeat, but just the wildest shit that I've ever like, and some of it was horrible and some of it was just, like, oh my God, like, did this really happen? And, but the thing about it is that, to be on the road and tour like that, I don't understand. Me personally, I see these guys drinking. Every time I see these guys, they're always like drinking bottles of Jaeger or, Jack Daniels. And I'm like, how in the hell can you sustain that much alcohol all this time? How can you do this all the time? And I sure in the hell can't. I take a shot of whiskey and I'll be out on the floor dead, but it's just like, tour has to be incredible at times.
It is, yeah. Hey, speaking of Full Terror Assault, that's Joey, right?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, his real close friend.
I'm talking to him about the Cloven Vicious Rumors tour, bringing them to that festival. You got to help me help convince him that they need to be a part of that show.
Oh, I'll hook it up. I'll talk to him. I'll talk to him. It's all about, with him, it's all about money. He does as much as he can to bring as many bands there, but it's all about finance. And I've learned so much from him. He's like one of my closest friends, and he's took nothing and made it one of almost It's getting to be one of the biggest festivals in America, and it's getting huge. It could be bigger, way bigger, but sitting down with him and all the time, I used to tell him, I'm like, oh, you need to get so and so and so and so and so and so, and he goes, no, brother, what do you stop? He goes, I don't have that much money. He goes, I don't have that money. He goes, you realize how much that costs? And I'm like, God, I didn't know. But now we book, we're not booking bands, but we're help getting bands into St. Louis, and we'll hear so-and-so, 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 and I'll be like, okay, well, how much is it? And I'll be like, well, that's $12,000. And I'm like, nah, fuck that. They're not worth $12,000. That's not feasible. And that's, now I know. Now I learn how much a band's cost and how much it costs to get them in there. That's all it's about. It's all numbers game, and festivals, they cost more. I don't know why than a regular show. I could book, like you could probably have Hatebreed come in for less money, but if you put them on a festival, it's like stupid money. And it's like, I don't understand that. I don't get it, but I'm learning more and more. But yeah, we definitely, like when I get off here, we'll talk for a minute. And I'll talk to Joey. I just talked to him today, and he's always looking for stuff. But like I said before, it's a numbers game, and I understand exactly. You understand, you deal with it every day. So it's going to happen. It's just going to happen for whatever it is, It's an awesome festival. Last year it was Overkill. I'm not going to go through all the bands, but the big ones were Overkill, Venom Inc., it had Crowbar, it had Goat Whore. It was a blast. I mean, it was Toxic Holocaust. It was there. I mean, just incredible. And I met bands from Europe. I met people I would never even think I would meet them. I talked to Bobby Blitz. He's...
Yeah, Overkill, that's cool.
So I noticed that none of the 2018 lineup has been released yet. Do you have the insight of some of the big bands are going to be this year?
Well, let me turn this thing off, and then I will tell you everything that you need to know. So, all right. Thank you guys for doing the interview. Just hold on one second.
Thank you.
Hey, we appreciate it, Jim, man. It's always fun to talk to a metal guy, and out there doing what you do. And again, we look forward to hopefully meeting with you soon. We played. I was actually in St. Louis. Did a show out there in I think it was 2000. I want to say 2012, 2013 or something. What was that venue in St. Louis?
Fubar.
Yeah, that was it, wasn't it? Yeah, the Fubar.
It's always Fubar.
Exactly. Is that the one that's got like two sides?
Yeah, it's two sides. And then did you go eat down the street at Pappy's?
No, we didn't.
You suck. You should have went down to Pappy's.
I played that with Aska, and we were on our way to Ohio to headline the Warriors of Metal Fest.
Yeah.
I think we did it was an off night. I think we played a Wednesday.
Right.
Wednesdays are always.
Right.
It was a real shit night, of the week. But, still, we had a good time. We had fun. And, it was interesting, St. Louis. I spent a lot of time up in the KC area anyway, because, Banshee was based out of Kansas City. So,
right.
I'm up there often when the band was busier and working and stuff. I was up there rehearsing and doing some shows. Played the All-Star Bar up there. Played Aftershock. You familiar with those venues at all?
What, in Kansas City? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You're in St. Louis. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But,
I'm 4 hours away.
Yeah. Right. But for us in Texas, that's just a stone's throw, man.
Yeah. From here to San Antonio.
Oh, I bet. Well, like I said, let me shut this thing off, and I'll talk to you real quick.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.